Hello and welcome to No Books Allowed, a series where I watch films based on novels and pretend that the books just don't exist, which means if anything is explained within the aged page of your favorite novel, but not in the film, then it's meaningless to me. To kick this off, let's begin with the series that left millions of 11-year-olds sad on their birthday, with Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. No, I'm not calling it sorcerers because I'm not a moron, regardless of what you uppity Brits think.
Do I look like an idiot to you?
So we start out on Privet Drive as an old man shambles down the street. He pulls out a strange device and it sucks the electricity from the street lamps. So I hit my first question wall. We watch the doohickey pull out the light from a street post, but it only draws small balls instead of streams. Light posts have a constant flow of electricity. Wouldn't they just relight instantly? I'm willing to give it a pass because it's really cool looking, but I'm not sure how it makes sense. Hopefully the film will explain it for us. After all, how can a world without magic have any narrative stakes if the magic has no rules, right? That's going to be a callback for later in the review, when I discuss how this magic has literally no rules. So an old dude and any morph named McGonagall in a
No turning back, no backing down, nowhere to run, no solid ground.
fat guy on a flying motorcycle deliver a baby to the door of the Dursleys, a perfectly happy family living their own lives and wanting nothing to do with any sort of magic. The Harry Potter baby is apparently famous for something, and there's an immediate sense of a grander sort of story. You know every single line so far has some sort of meaning, and it sets the fantastic sort of tone that this series is known for. The lightning bolt implies something magical happened to him, and while the zoom and flash was a little too on the nose, I liked it. Cut 11 years later, Harry Potter is living underneath the staircase of these horrible people, the Dursleys. They spoil their own son while treating him like absolute ass. Vernon Dursley mentions to Harry,
any funny business, any at all, and you won't have any meals for a week.
Which implies he knows about magic. I sort of think they picked the wrong person to play Dudley. I understand the character they're going for, but the boy is far too thin. Harry Potter isn't exactly that skinny or malnourished looking, so having the spoiled boy only be a little bit overweight sort of detracts from the clashing images. They should have made him look a bit more thicker like Vernon. I think this is the first element of the story that I didn't especially enjoy. So, like I was saying, Vernon says,
Funny business.
And immediately there is,
Funny business.
Harry talks to a freaking snake, then he uses his magic to make the glass totally disappear. It implies this was absolutely the intent, by the spiteful look in his eyes, making the character seem to think, I hope he falls through. The freaking snake thanks him and slithers away. The glass reappears and Dudley's trapped. It cuts to the house and Harry's scolded for saying it was magic and locked in his, room. Because of Vernon talking about how funny business has happened before, it's easy to assume this sort of thing has happened before. But to what extent does Harry know about his powers? Who knows? We get to see more about how assy Harry's life is via hand-me-down clothing, the only type of clothing I had until I was 13. An owl is shown several times delivering messages to the family, and they're all thrown away. Vernon clearly knows something Harry doesn't, and after the owls get a tad bit more aggressive with the delivery methods, we learn the most important thing about Vernon Dursley.
Sunday. In my opinion, best day of the week.
A letter hurricane and a healthy spot of child abuse later, Vernon brings them away, somewhere he thinks the post won't reach. Long story short, the fat guy from the introduction shows up, his name is Hagrid, says,
You're a wizard, Harry.
Gives Harry an ass cake that he sat on a little, and whisks Harry Potter away from the assy family to the Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Also, Hagrid uses some illegal magic to give Dudley's ass a pigtail. Nice. So Harry Potter is shown the secret magic side of London, and unfortunately no, they don't run into John Constantine. It is, however, shown just how important Harry's name is to the wizards, especially by the meek, totally not a villain guy wearing a turban. Harry is led into the wizardry world, which seemingly exists in its own dimension, something not entirely explained and left to the imagination. Why don't planes see this whole city as they fly overhead? Harry Potter's parents left him behind a massive fortune, and they go retrieve it from the banking goblins. Our first taste of a magical race. Hagrid notwithstanding, as he isn't exactly teeming with any sort of magical imagery, nor has there been any explanation of why Hagrid is so large. Hagrid grabs a top secret thingy from a top secret vault and Harry collects his money. Side note, why is gold the currency in the wizarding world? Wouldn't it be incredibly easy just to create gold? If Hagrid can create organic material in a boy's bottom with his mind and an umbrella, couldn't they just will gold into existence? Anyway, Harry trashes a wandmaker's store, and we learn something very important about wands in this world. Wands choose their owners. Wands reject their owners by causing negative effects when held, an interesting concept. Harry is given a wand that has something dark about it.
I wonder. Very curious.
His wand has a phoenix feather, a type of wand reagent that only one other wizard has used before, a dark wizard who gave him the scar and killed his parents. We get the first taste of the fear that the populace of the wizarding world has for this villain, as the wand maker is too scared to say his name.
We do not speak his name.
And Hagrid tells the full story of Voldemort. Having the villain be so feared so early is decent storytelling. It gives a bit more info why Harry is revered in the wizarding world. He was the only one who survived Voldemort's assault. It lets the viewer know exactly who's about to fuck shit up, and it doesn't come as a surprise villain in the late second act. No twist endings here, just a straight hero's journey's tale. Oh, also Harry kind of has an owl now. A letter says one can bring an owl if they like, and I assumed Harry just kind of picked up an owl. In the deleted scenes, it mentions that the owl's name is Hedwig, but if I were watching the theatrical release, I'd have no idea who the owl is. So to get to the train to go to Hogwarts, you go through Platinum 9 3/4 in a real London train station. This is how you do it. Run on a fucking wall and phase through. It was at this point, with every single character seen so far knowing about magic, including Dudley, who gave a fearful look when seeing the Hogwarts letter, that it was actually a big unknown whether or not magic was commonplace. They seem to use a lot of magic in public, with hundreds of people around. Anyways, my confusion aside, Harry meets the Weasleys, a large family of really poor redheads. He instantly clicks with their youngest boy, Ron Weasley, and Harry buys him chocolate.
We'll take the lot.
So seeing that the Weasleys are poor, it means that you can't just make gold, but why not? So while talking, they meet Ron's rat Scabbards, and this annoying girl comes waltzing in, and an air of superiority about her. Hermione, a girl who seems decent at casting spells, but sort of a huge bitch.
Sure that's a real spell? Well, it's not very good, is it?
Then they get to Hogwarts, and an extremely stretched out bit of them seeing various parts of identical looking castle is very reminiscent of the original Star Trek movie. Hogwarts is on an island, assumingly guarded by magic, so you can't just walk into it. The boys meet Draco Malfoy, a preppy blonde bitch boy who insults Ron's family and walks away. Don't really know what that was all about. The headmaster Dumbledore lays out some rules. Dark Forest, out of bounds. Third corridor, out of bounds. Which, of course, means all the plot will be focused on these two locales. Here is introduced the school houses. There's 4 of them. Gryffindor, Slytherin, Hufflepuff, and Ravenclaw. The school houses are sorted by a hat. A sorting hat, if you will. Thank you. Oh, thank you, really, you're too much. Oh, you're too much. The 4 houses represent core personality traits, and the film describes them thusly. They don't. Not conventionally, anyways. See, mean Ellen DeGeneres gets sorted into Slytherin, showing viewers that Slytherin, for all current purposes, is the bad guy house. Because the film did not explain the houses, and the only person who's sorted into Slytherin in the entire viewable movie is a bad guy, it gives viewers the wrong impression. Why make a house for bad guys? Couldn't the film have laid out some rules as to why you're sorted into the houses before doing it? I applaud the director for trying to find subtle, clever ways of establishing the personalities of the houses without exposition, as Hagrid did sort of dump a lot onto viewers a little while ago. But it leads to this immediate disconnect between what the houses represent and what they actually are. Luckily for us, the house speculates Harry being Slytherin, which does seem to go to show that not all Slytherins are evil, but still, it was done in a very bad way. The hat detected Ellen DeGeneres being Slytherin so fast, but what does that actually mean in a story without the meaning established? Even the hat makes Slytherin seem like the bad guy house by saying that Slytherins can give him great power in an extremely shady way. He says Slytherin can make you great, but why? Are there resources Slytherins get that Gryffindors don't? Who knows? The other houses are totally unexplained. What is Ravenclaw? What is Hufflepuff? Who fucking knows? So the scene is a bit bulky in terms of plot, because Dumbledore giving the rules, the sorting, the houses, their explanation, and there's also a bit of
Funny business.
Harry Potter sees Alan Rickman locking eyes with him from across the room. Harry Potter starts to have a scar ache, then goes to get sorted. Also, Ron is sorted into Gryffindor, and as the hat implies, the rest of his family is as well.
Take a guess which one I am.
Bit of a nitpick, the candles floating above them clearly have melting texture on them. Why aren't they spilling wax onto the students? Potter learns that Alan Rickman is playing Severus, Alan Rickman's Snape, the potions master who wishes to teach Defense Against the Dark Arts. Defense Against the Dark Arts is just a fancy way of saying zap shit class. While being led into their rooms, they're taken through moving staircases. What are the practical benefits of staircases that move around like this? Wouldn't it only make sense to be controlled by will to get around, otherwise you're waiting for nothing? Was it a failed spell? Is there a greater point? Do they give hall passes for students who were late because of unexpected staircases staircase movings? Or is it just a silly detail to make things seem very zany? Who knows? The dorm rooms are behind talking paintings with passwords. Harry goes all emo with his pet owl, and wait, hold on. If the paintings walk around and leave their paintings to go to other paintings of themselves, can they bump into each other? Like, can two Dumbledores walk into the same chocolate frog? Or is it one Dumbledore walking to everyone's chocolate frog? Can there be a point when wizards are overpopulated, the portrait may just spend fractions of their time in each painting, like say, 1,000,000 Dumbledore frogs are made? What happens if all of them want to go into the same frog? Can they? Or is it just one who has to bounce around between all million, making each individual frog's picture only have Dumbledore for like a second? Who knows? I'm saying that a lot because as interesting as this world seems to be, it clearly has no rules. So, cut to potions, in one of my personal favorite scenes in the movie. Let me break this down a bit. Harry isn't paying attention in class, so Alan Rickman calls him out. It's clear that Snapple doesn't like Potter from the start, but that is only the tip of the geniuses of Alan Rickman's performance here. Snape calls out Potter and challenges the fame that everyone else seems to be glorifying. He asks questions that any wizard should know, and indeed, others in the room, particularly Hermione, the annoying girl from the train, does. Snape humiliates Potter for not paying attention, showing his teaching methods. He never raises his voice, never strikes anything, never gets outwardly angry. This says a lot about the methodicalness of his character. He keeps his voice even. Feeling humiliated, Harry backstalks him with sarcasm, and Severus sits down and calmly explains the answers to Harry, marking the class should be writing. This is even showing that he isn't even singling Harry out. He would have done that to anyone, as he is going strictly on everyone. And finally, Snape takes 5 points from Gryffindor, but not because Harry didn't know the answers, but because of his cheek. The single gesture alone demonstrates the brilliance of that character, and if you don't understand it yet, hopefully by the end of the review, or even the series, you'll understand. Sorry, went on a tangent. Let me speed through the section that may as well be an 80s montage scene. They practice magic. Owls deliver mail, which makes me question how often owl poop falls onto students' heads. Potter learns that dark wizards attack Gringotts and raid the secret vault that Hagrid took the package from earlier. They practice flying on broomsticks, and a clever way to tie in the old witches ride broomsticks bit. Neville, a student who we've seen bumble around a bit so far, is comically bad at flying, and Harry and Draco are ridiculously good at it. Draco steals something from Neville, the bumbler, and hurls it, and Harry takes off in pursuit, sticking up for his friend. This is, of course, a sign of courage. The hat mentioned courage when talking to Harry about Gryffindor, so it's fully obvious now to tell that Gryffindor is all about courage, which basically means Gryffindor is the main character house. After catching the Remember-All, a tiny glass orb, McGonagall, the cat lady teacher from earlier, wants Harry to get into Quidditch as a seeker. Quidditch is basically wizard football. Harry has had enough natural talent that he makes a team, like his father, coincidentally. Remember when I was whinging about the staircases? Well, because they move randomly, it forces the three, Harry, Ron, and Hermione, into the third corridor, where Dumbledore said not to go. Why? Because it's random and stupid. Couldn't the stairs have been altered at least not to go there? It's ridiculous. In the third corridor, they see a Cerberus guarding a trap door. So, here's where I bring up Hermione. Why is Hermione hanging out with them? Nothing has been shown so far that sets up their friendship. In fact, every scene that they've had so far makes the boys seem to really dislike her. She seems to dislike them, being all snobbish and rude. I'm not entirely certain where the transition came from. She even leaves the group she had been talking to join them, just to point out to Harry his dad was Seeker. Why'd she stay with them when she clearly had friends to go back to? It seems forced, like they needed a girl in their trio, so the plot gods sent in a nerdy female. Just like it was forced that the staircase took them to the third corridor, unless the staircase can detect plot, of course. Maybe it gets explained later. So Harry plays Quidditch, and I plan on talking more about Quidditch in a later episode to stop this from being 50 billion hours. Alright, here's the iconic Wingardium Leviosa scene, and I have a couple questions, and some problems with the magic presented so far. Hagrid, and I'm looking into the future a bit, sorry, only made it to his third year of magic, and he really isn't very good at all. He manages to grow Dudley's tail just by pointing, without words. However, a simple levitation spell requires 2 steps of a wand movement and 8 syllables of magic words to make it work.
It's Leviosa, not Leviosa.
But why? What gives the words magic? Why do the wands require movement? Why do the wands have to swish around magic juice before it shoots out in specific ways? Do the words carry magic, and why would they? Is it an ancient language by magic beings? Does it call on demonic power or some crack-ass shit? Or is it nothing more than a focusing tool to help students remember the spells, like PEMDAS or something? And once you get good, you can do it more naturally and don't need the words. Are the words and the wand moves actually meaningless? You may argue that I'm nitpicking details of a magic system that seems to work, but when the only explanation is, I don't have to tell you it's magic, then it starts to feel sort of cheap. It's fun, it's whimsical, it's for children, I get it. Even a story like Star Wars explains the Force. It's like an otherworldly power and you reach out to use it. There needs to be an explanation. There needs to be a rule. So far, the only things we know about magic are that you apparently can't use it to make money, and you need to use magic words and motions, except for all the times that you don't. Was Hagrid actually just so powerful where he's at the point where magic doesn't need words or motions? As an audience, we don't know what this magic can or can't do. And because of that, there are absolutely no narrative stakes that we can be invested into. When your whole world is nonsensical magic, how can we expect anything to be anything but nonsensical? All they needed to do was include a scene talking about, say, how magic drains your energy as you use it. But if you use words of power that have existed for longer than time, it doesn't. So it's best to learn the actual spells instead of casting willy-nilly. That's just an idea. Something like that. If they had any explanation, my complaints would nearly be gone. So that's it for part 1 of No Books Allowed, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Part 2 will be out shortly. I hope you guys like it. Please leave your comments below, whether I got anything wrong, whether or not anything was explained in the film, whether or not I missed anything, or whether or not you guys noticed things that are wrong with the film that I didn't. Now, keep in mind, if you offer me an explanation that comes from the book and not from the film itself, it won't count. That's kind of the rules for, well, No Books Allowed. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you later.